All right, what are we talking about when we say win? And win now. I'm going to put these on because I got my ring light glare going on. Win. What is necessary? And this can be applicable in all areas of life. We're not just talking about on the field of play or in sports competition. What is necessary? And I think the first thing that's necessary is to have a goal. Have a goal. What is it that we want? What are we trying to win at? Are we trying to win at personal improvement, professional stature, financial security? What are we do? Better health, of course, better fitness. What is it that we're trying to achieve? What is the goal? And that's a good place to start. But even before that, you have to know that there's something that needs to be changed, and change won't happen until you change your mind. So, where do we start with that? We start with the change, and then we know that we now want to have a goal in mind. So, what is our goal? I think in the first form, we want our goals to be realistic. I think a lot of times people we get inundated with what we see in social media where we don't really pay too much attention to what's real at times versus what we just see constantly bombarding us and coming at us in the form of very polished people who don't tell you all of the rigors that they went through to get to what you're seeing now. I've been saying for years, I call it the Cribs era, and it was where MTV would just come in and show you these people with mansions and tons of cars and an enormous backyard and all this cool stuff, but it took them a lot of time to get that. Most of them, it took them time, it took them hard work, it took them a lot of setbacks, and a lot of times people weren't being shown that, so it just immediately gave them the idea, hey, I want that too. But they didn't know how to go through the work to get that. And these other people did. And some people have gone on to share what it was that they went through to get those things. But a lot of times we don't hear that story. We only see the finished product on the field, on the video, in the movie, on the record, whatever it is, standing at a podium. We don't see everything that it took for them to get to that point. And so for a lot of people, I'm sure the idea is it must be easy to obtain. If they can have it, then I can too. So we get to kind of an unrealistic state. We don't want to go into our goals being delusional. I want to improve, say, my 100-meter dash. But I also have to know that I'm not going to run it in a Usain Bolt time. What I have to do is I have to only be better than I was the last time that I went out and did this. I'm going to bring this mic down because my air just kicked on. I have to be better than what I did the last time. That's my goal, is to be realistic and not delusional about what I'm going to do. Now, if a younger, more apt person who was running faster times and was doing harder training thought that they could break a world record, I'm not saying that records aren't meant to be broken, and I'm not saying that certain people can't obtain that. I'm saying for me, my realism and my non-delusional mind says I'm not going to run what Usain Bolt does. And one, because it's not a goal of mine, but two, I don't train that way. I'm not putting those things in place. The nutrition, the teams, all of the coaches, all of the things that would be necessary, that's not something that I'm pursuing. So I have to be realistic about that. And if you did want those things and you weren't training that way or you weren't putting it together, you still have to have a realistic outcome of what your results are going to be because you're not putting in the hard work for that. But again, I say go for your best effort, because that's what Usain Bolt did. A lot of times he talked about not trying to chase records. He's just trying to do his best, and his best happened to be better than humans have ever done it before in that capacity. So do your best, and I think you have a better outcome rather than trying to measure yourself against other people. Even in the field of competition, when you're running side by side with people, you want to get there first, sure, but I would rather. And I used to ask my daughter this when she was running cross country, my oldest. She would get upset if she didn't have like a certain place, like in the first top 10 or something. But I asked her one day, I said, would you rather place in the top? I said, would you rather win the race and run your worst time or lose the race, come in dead last, and run your absolute personal best? And that's a question we all have to ask ourselves at times. What do we want? Do we want to just be the smartest person in the room, or do we want to break off and go someplace else where other people can make us better? So that's where we can't be delusional about a lot of the things that we are trying to reach as goals. The other part for a goal is patience. It's not, boom, going to happen just like that, just because, boom, I saw it on social media or I saw it on a certain show where there's people living in these enormous lavish houses. And just as a side note, a lot of those houses aren't what you think they are. A lot of those cars aren't what you think they are. A lot of the jewelry, furs, designer clothes, not what you think it is. And it's for show, it's for entertainment, and you have to take it as such. But I say all that to say you have to have the patience that if that's what you want, it may not come for most people immediately. Now, in a lot of cases, we're seeing different ways that people are earning and obtaining generational and absorbent amounts of wealth in a very short amount of time. But also be mindful of what a lot of people are doing to obtain that as well. Is that a path that you want to go down? But a lot of times it's going to take that being in school for some time. It's going to take applying to different jobs. It's going to take being an understudy. It's going to take being an apprentice. It's going to take studying outside of your studying. I mean, just even picking up as life skills and picking brains, going to conferences, meetings, and meeting with people, doing things possibly for free to get the knowledge to be able to really get your feet under you to go with that. So, again, not being immediate. Make your action immediate. Make your call to change immediate. Nothing's going to change until you change your mind. So all of these things they'll come sooner if you start sooner. But you have to start sooner for it to come sooner. So those are kind of those things that you really want to be able to be mindful of. That what is it that I'm doing, and when am I going to get after it? If you continue to hit the snooze, you're going to be late for your day. If you get up when that alarm goes off in your mind, body, and soul and says, this is time for me to make a real change in my life. If you continue to sit on that, you may talk yourself out of it. But if you get up and do it, you are more apt to follow through on it because now you've actually put some action behind the thought. So everything starts with the thought, but then start putting some action to it. So know that these things should come in a reasonable time frame. And that's, again, if you're working on yourself, just for personal goals, professional goals, health and fitness, finance, a lot of these things for most people are going to take time. There's easily going to be somebody that can jump on and say, I did this in 30 days, or they're going to sell you these seminars and, all of those things that can change your life in a very short amount of time. That's if you follow every step. And a lot of times people aren't disciplined enough because they don't know enough. So there's a process where you need to be able to learn how to manage these steps as you go. Otherwise, you may become overwhelmed, or you might just get lost in that process and not be able to know what the next viable step is to make to reach those successes. So a lot of times it's layers. It's not just boom, one thing and there you go. It takes time, and it takes maturity too. It's not just what you're going to learn. Even if you had the person who can tell you how to do it right from step A to step B, it's still your call in a lot of cases. So if you're not going to do the work, then it's not going to get done. And I had this discussion with a young lady a few years ago. She was talking about going to therapy and how her therapist, had her reading a book, but she wasn't reading the book. And I said, well, if you're not reading the book and this person, you're paying this person, a trusted professional, then how do you expect to get the results? And you're not being honest with them either. So it's a waste of your money or resource and that person's time who thinks that you are doing the work that you're supposed to do. You have to be able to do it yourself. There's nobody that's going to do it for you. And trust me, as somebody who's trained people in athletics, conditioning, fitness, you name it, I have had a lot of people, it was very apparent, those who actually did the work when they were away and those who did not. It was very apparent. And often it's understandable because a lot of times people don't, again, have that maturity. They haven't set their mind into fully committing that I am deserving of this change. I can make this change possible. So I'm not downing anyone, but it's a realistic point of just being that we don't always believe that what we're supposed to be doing is doable. And so therefore sometimes we shy away from it. We don't actually do it. So the patience is definitely huge. And just know that you're going to grow as you're going through this process. So it's more than just saving money every paycheck. It's like not doing other things that you were used to doing that with that extra money that you're now saving. It takes time. So we keep keeping on when it comes to that. Discipline is going to be the lifeblood of a lot of change and growth for many people. And the reason I say that is because, pardon me, the reason I say that is because it's going to be a daily part of your routine. It's going to be what you're supposed to be doing every day when it comes to that and that change that you're making. So discipline, that I mentioned, getting up when the alarm clock goes off, being where you're supposed to be on time or ahead of time, eating what you're supposed to. Sometimes it comes down to kind of not answering some people's phone calls, getting other people out of your lives. Because if you need that change, if you know that something has to change, then there's going to be some pieces around you that are going to have to be removed and others that are going to have to be put in. And just keep in mind that discipline, it's not structured to be a punishment. It's a reward for your work. It's a reward for you recognizing that something needs to change in your life and that you're making those changes. Because if everything was great, then why would you need to make the change? So the discipline isn't a punishment. It's going to structure other things in your life that you're going to be rewarded by in the long run. So eating better. Okay, you get rid of that trash food. Yeah, at first it seems like a punishment. Oh man, I can't have this great value meal or whatever it is, that large Coke and all these things that sound really great. But what it is, you're getting rid of a bad habit. You're kicking an addiction in a lot of cases. A lot of our behaviors are so ingrained in our habitual routine that it's almost like an addiction. And in some cases, like food, like tobacco, like alcohol, like drugs and recreational or pharmacy, those can be addictive, physically, chemically addictive, and it can change a person. So there's going to be things that feel like a punishment, but it's only for a short amount of time, I believe. And then once you start getting past it, you're going to feel better for it. Look, even just something like stretching. If you say, my back hurts every day, get up and give yourself 5 minutes of stretching every day. You're probably going to feel better. But that first couple days, that first 30 seconds of stretch in the morning, it hurts, my back's tight. Give it time. Give it time. Watch when those muscles loosen up. Your mood starts to improve because you don't have that pain in your back. And then you start to feel better. So it's a discipline to get up and do these things. You got to have patience that it's going to work. And it's a realistic goal of something that you can do. There's a saying, and that like real G's move in silence. And what that means is a lot of times you just have to do your business. And not everybody needs to know it. Do yourself that favor. You can certainly, have your trusted circle and, those things. But a lot of times we get out there and we want to put it out on social media. I've seen that many times. Even just announcing New Year's resolutions. This is what I'm going to do for the new year. Don't put the pressure on yourself to do that. Just quietly do that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to maybe somewhere up here, I'll post to the video Happy New You, where I talked about somebody that I saw making that change. But it's about you, and it's about doing it immediately. Don't wait for certain times. But when you do that, you don't always have to announce it either. Not everything has to be for everybody's public consumption. We are in a day and age where we give away a lot of our lives, and I will share a lot of my life, but there's very specific parts that I don't share for specific reasons. And I've made some amazing come ups in the last 5 to 7 years, and not too many people knew what I was doing for a variety of reasons, but they still got accomplished. And it was accomplished without the pressure of people, hey, when's that going to get done? Or, how's that coming? No, sometimes it's because it's a struggle. And when you're struggling through things and you're struggling to learn, to grow, to improve, sometimes you don't need to feel like the weight of, man, now these people are going to be let down by what I have or haven't done. And not all of you may feel that way, but many do. And that you can crumble under your own pressure that you set up for yourself. It can be exciting to announce those things, but sometimes we just need to not put that pressure on us. And here's the other thing. Keep in mind that not everybody in your life or in your circle are going to be happy for your change, for your growth. Not everybody in the bleachers behind you is cheering for you. You might hear noise, but it may not always be cheering for you. And it's a sad but hard and real reality that a lot of people really need to know, because sometimes if you're making improvements in your life, it's going to make the people who you were doing those other habits with feel a certain way. You can't control how they feel, but their feelings may manifest into negative support for you. And I've seen it many times. Seen it many, many times with people losing weight, and then suddenly they get around their people and like, oh, you look too skinny. No, they've only lost a little amount of weight. They're not emaciated. They're not frail. They're healthier. But by comparison, because these are the people that you overate with, overdrank with, were very sedentary with, they don't like that because they're getting left behind. And whether they admit it or not, it's just a truth of the matter. And so sometimes you have to just keep in your supportive circle. And sometimes you're going to find a new supportive circle. That's the most important thing to also realize. If you are going to school, you're going to find people in your classroom that you're going to have other things in common with if you get the chance to chat with them. If you're going to church, well, you're all there for a reason. Same thing with class. You're all there for a reason. If you're taking an instrument, if you're going to open mics, if you are going to hot yoga class, shout out to Mr. Nathaniel J. Burns. If you're going to these things, that means that everybody else had a common thought to go there. So there's something already there that gets you off of just like, there's just another human. I'm not sure what they're interested in. No. You're here in the same building, taking the same class as me. So at the same time, so there's also schedule. Hey, are you going to come here often? And, maybe we can work out next to each other. Or if you ever want to trade notes or, do study buddy time, things like that are definitely doable and proof positive. Done it myself on all of those fronts. So it doesn't always have to mean you're chasing something romantic. It just means you are building bridges with a support group of people going through the same thing that you are. That, hey, your friends and family, you might love them, but they're not going to understand maybe what it is exactly that you're going through. That this person in this class, in this setting that you are going to see once or twice a week or however often, they're going to understand it more closely aligned with how you're seeing it because you're both going through it. So that's a good place to get connected. Distractions. Get away from the distractions. And distractions can come in the form of people, places, things. Just like nouns. They can come in the form of many things. So people, distractions. Look, last year, I was going back to school. And I had been dating somebody a few months prior. It was good until it wasn't, if you guys know what I mean. And as school was approaching, it was building up. And then as the relationship was kind of eroding. And it was this perfect click that The transition wasn't to replace a person with school, but it allowed me to focus. I pushed this out and just went straight into the school. And it was a great process. It was a great transition because it didn't give me time to think about what I was walking away from. And sometimes that's the best thing that we can do. Give ourselves something else to not have to, think about what we were doing before. Look, and that doesn't have to mean a person. That means get up and go for a hike every day rather than sit and eat food. New neighbors. Sit and eat food. And so you have to be able to find something that's going to be able to kind of, trade one thing for another. And sometimes it's just space. You just need the space, the peace of mind, just to say, I don't have to deal with this person anymore, or this person, or this place, or this thing. So a lot of times it's not just a person, but in this case, it was the distraction of that relationship. It was the distraction of the needless, attention that it needed to have, because it wasn't good attention after a while. It was just, gardening. And I always say it's best when the garden weeds itself. So when that happened, I was really freed up to be able to say, oh, look over here. And now I have all of this to give my real attention to. So a person can definitely do that. And it doesn't have to be an intimate relationship. It can absolutely be your friends. You know those friends. You might have been that friend. Maybe you are that friend. The wild ones. The ones who you kind of go out and do all that stuff with and hang out with, and that you spend too much with, you eat too much with, you drink too much with. I had those friends that, we were out fighting, and just getting into it. It's not going to get you far, especially when you're trying to change. And that's typically what happens when you're younger, or just less matured. It can happen to people older in age, but who didn't have the freedom to do what they want to do now. And so sometimes you might find that in an older group, but generally it's for the younger. But you got that friend, and it might be a family member. It could just be a person. So what I'm saying is it doesn't have to be an intimate relationship. That can be that sort of distraction or destructive sort of, environment for you to try to make a change in. Places, wherever you go to eat that food, or whether it just comes from that place. So you don't always have to go to the drive-through. Sometimes people with things like Instacart and deliveries, it comes from a place, and it doesn't need to come from that place. So replace it. Find different places and ways in which to, I guess, entertain. So if it's food, if it's a bar, if it's something that allows you to just be entertained in possibly a recreational but somewhat reckless way. Be cautionary. Those things all play a part in not allowing growth at times. So you have to kind of push those aside. Things, person, place, things. Again, food, alcohol, tobacco, just recreational behaviors. A lot of those things can be destructive. So we really want to make sure that you are aware of those things being in your path, because again, we're talking about habits. And so a lot of times we're not aware, like, hey, I should probably not be doing that, but you're so used to doing it that you think that you can make this change and still hold on to that habit. And those two things don't go along with each other. Social media. It's big. And it goes back to that moving in silence that I was talking about. I see so many people posting things on social media that are just this huge, look at what I'm about to do. And we do it for likes. We do it for validation. We do it for the feeling like, hey, if enough people like it, it must be that it's going to happen, or it's going to help me do it. That's not necessarily true. sometimes the best thing to do is just not do it. And I believe it was LeBron James would go into what was called blackout mode before like playoffs and things like that, where he would just completely get away from social media, allow himself to focus on that. And that's a new like a newer age thing where social media didn't exist for like Larry Bird or athletes of yesteryear, so they didn't have that distraction. But that distraction doesn't mean that there weren't women, doesn't mean that there weren't a lot of other people around. Lisa,
Hello, baby.
hey, how are you? I'm gonna call you right back, okay?
How long?
About 10 minutes.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye.
All right, Lisa in the house. um so I say all that to say there's still distractions. There's still women. There's still alcohol. There's still drugs. There's still fast cars. There's still just wild partying behavior. So there's a lot of things that still have those tendencies to be a distraction on what we want when we're talking about winning. So, what is necessary? What is necessary to get up and win every day? I know I went a long ways to get back to the win, but what is necessary? And this can happen in a very short amount of time. What is our goal? My goal for the day is to get up and make it through the first half of my day. I got to work out. I got to make some of these phone calls. I got to get myself eaten. I got to get prepared before I go to work. That's some of my goals every day. That's something that I got to do. Now, is it realistic? Sure. Because these are things that I've already accomplished. Sometimes the realistic part is, or the maybe the delusional is, I'm going to get it all done in X amount of time because I know me and I'm still a work in progress. So I may not get it all done in time or leave at a specific time, even though that's my goal. That's what I'm working towards. So the patience is that if I work on that every day and do things like have my clothes set out or they're already ironed or I pre-pack my bag or something like that, then I'm set to leave at a better time, and that has worked out well for me. So sometimes it's not a long-term goal like saving up for a house or losing 50 pounds, but it's going to be dependent on you. What is the goal? How much realism do I need to put into it? No delusional. How much patience, and then the discipline. The discipline will play out over the time that did I have the discipline to get up and do it ahead of time. And if I did, then that's a bonus for my day. But it doesn't always have to be like these massive things. And then the silence, just to do it. Sometimes, like the old Nike slogan, just do it. Don't talk about it, or anything else. Sometimes you just have to do it. You have to just do it. If I tell everybody else that this is what I'm going to do, it doesn't mean that it always gets done. So it's always nice to have somebody else to like kind of hold you accountable. You hold you accountable. You hold you accountable. That's the first person. We don't want to turn other people into crutches. Crutches are great until they become one, and you don't want to have people feeling like you're just crutching on them, and you certainly don't need one. That's what the habits are for, to break, to build new habits that are going to strengthen yourself, to better yourself. That's the win. So the win is going to be now. And now is no other world. Be in the now. If you are focused on that goal, be in the now while you're doing that. Now, I'm not saying that outside of your workout, you always have to be in workout mode. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is when you are working out, get away from the distractions, put down the social media, leave your phone in the car if you need to, have the discipline to follow through on the workout, and then be realistic about what it is you're doing. Same thing with the finances. If you are in the now, okay, I just got paid. I need to pay ahead on this. I need to pay that. I'm going to put a little over here, and then I'm going to take this very small amount for some entertainment just if you need it, or if you have given yourself a time frame where this is my every other paycheck and I get a little bit to entertain myself. I'm going to go to the movies or buy something for myself or whatever. Sometimes you can game plan that way. Sometimes you just need to put it all in different areas. But again, that's going to be your independent discipline and something you can do in silence with no distractions. Not having that friend call you and say, hey, let's go out. We just got paid. Nope, that's the one you don't need, or at least the one you need to say, this is my new boundary. Look, I got to stack up some money. I got to save some money. We can't go do that. If we want to hang out, we're going to have to do something that is way less cost effective and go from there. So lots of different ways to define the win, winning now, no other world. Focus on that while you're in it. Give it your full attention. Because again, finances or fitness, they deserve your full attention. Give your relationships, whether they're intimate or whatever else, give it your full attention. If you're having that conversation or if you're having some sort of issue, give it your full attention. If you're having issues at work, give it your full attention. Okay, no other world. And you see this in sports when people do some amazing, great things. Their focus is massive. They are focused in that. They're not looking in the stands. And again, you would think, that's easy. They're just, they're playing basketball or they're doing this or that. No, they're doing this in front of thousands, tens of thousands of people. It would be very easy to be distracted by cheering, by booing, by announcements, by Jumbotron, by whatever else it is that's going on around that. But they're in that moment. They're in that now. Be in your now. Be in your now. And it's much easier if you can do that kind of by yourself. Although I will say, the voice that can kind of dampen your spirits the quickest is your own. So this is really why we have to sit with ourselves and be able to say, this is where I'm at. This is my now. And I have to even block out the internal voices, not the external. Sometimes the internal is way worse because you could have everybody cheering for you. But if you don't believe that you can do it, it's likely going to be a much harder path to go through. So I think I've covered at least what I'd like to for winning now. I'm sure there's a lot more, but I've talked at length. But I think we made some really good points with that as well. So I'd like to know what you guys think. And I'm going to try to go live with the same topic. This is just going to be a whole video for a lot of people who won't catch the live, things like that. But this is just a video that's going to be a little bit more constructed to talk into those points. Whereas if the live comes on, I may have other people in the chat where the conversation can be redirected. So I just wanted to get to my points. But that's my thoughts on it. Guys, what are your thoughts? Leave a comment. Ace up the sleeve. Advice, comment, experience. This is going to go on both channels. Vincent, Alfonzo, Jamal, and Impact Athletics Association. So I hope this finds everybody in your place. Pursuit of beginnings of total health, mind, body, and soul. Peace, love, unity, solidarity. And on the other side, HWPO, hard work pays off. And this is the Impact Athletics Association. And as always, subscriptions and videos. So stick around.